Hello, adventurers, and welcome back to the Legend in Kelamentura recap series. This time we are recapping Session 24, the Iceborne Inquisition. Um, this one is going up a wee bit later than I would have liked. Just life, busy stuff, whatever. Got the quest log updated again. It was updated, I think, about a week after this session, so I think I've got most things, but sure, I think all the important stuff's in there. Um, so yeah, looking forward to this. All right, okie dokie. So the Iceborne Inquisition. So after reconvening for breakfast, after the party had their sort of bonding experience in the woods near Iceborne with Ariadne's mushroom tea hallucinogenic stuff, the Scallybags sat down and had a chat about what they were going to do for the next couple of days. Titus got himself into it, had a project that was going to take, I think I said about a week's worth of work to do. To craft a helm and wand, which he's in the process of doing. So he started that, and Ariadne's kind of tagging along. It's kind of just to sort of have you give Titus some company, and also just to help out as best you can. Uh, Bjorn, Achilles, and Duchess kind of spent their days in the temple, the Pure One's temple in the town, which also has an adjoining home. The name for which is long, and I have already forgotten it. I think it's the home for the orphaned and destitute, something like that. Basically, it's a yeah, yeah. You get it's a poor house slash orphanage just next to this temple. All of which is run by the high priestess, whose name I've also forgotten, but it's in my notes, so I can refer to that when I need to. And Lo spent his days down with the giants, and it's been a while since I've actually given their names out. So we have the giants are there's two cloud giants, Prince Umagorn and Prince Gormadan. That is dancing wisps of cloud and heavy clouds of rain. That's what the two names mean in giant. And we have the three hill giants, Pebble, Rock, and Granite. There was a fourth, Jim, but he was the one who was killed in the encounter. So Lo and the giants, they're kind of starting to build a temple to Ellestrade down by the docks. The giants already have like a sort of a warehouse that has kind of been turned into their place to sleep. So the temple's not terribly far away from there. But that was kind of wake up at breakfast. Everybody has a working day in massive air quotes. Then reconvene for dinner. And right, okay, let's go off and let's get into this Inquisition shit. There was a big sit-down discussion at the table about, what do we do? How do we get into this? And there's big, long discussion about what the party could do, how they were going to investigate it. But I kind of tried to steer them. It's difficult to do as a DM because the party are going down this elaborate thing, and you're kind of going, I would love to see that, but trying to steer them back on track. They kind of just added. It kind of, I don't know if I felt like railroading them or not, but it was just kind of party heading down one track, do this really elaborate plan. We can send Titus in to infiltrate. And I was kind of like, that might work. Or the fact that Iceborne is, only really coming back online as a town, it might be a good place for people to sneak through type thing. I don't know. I apologize to my players if that felt like railroading them, but the ideas to have are really cool and everything, but I was just kind of like, maybe not. I don't know. It's yeah. I don't know if other DMs struggle with that. Your party has this really elaborate plan. You go, I would love to see that work, but there's no way it's going to work because it's all going to be a dead end. I don't know how to work that, and I don't know. Maybe we'll get better luck next time down the road. But they ultimately decided to split into two groups because they have 2 points of inquiry. There's the King's Head, which they were told is like a hangout for the icebreaker crews, and down by the docks, where the icebreakers or the other sailors, might get some information, whatever, about the movements through the port. Now, the icebreaker that they've been told about is the dragon turtle. So they know the Defiant came through and got a lift, effectively, or chartered the icebreaker, the dragon turtle, to go to the north. So they're like, okay, well, So Lo, Achilles, and Duchess says, okay, we'll head to the tavern and we'll go in, try and find a crew and get chatting to them. So those three went into the tavern, kind of all headed down to the docks together and then split off at this point, kind of team tavern, team docks. Team tavern went in, and Achilles and Duchess Achilles went in and he kind of immediately just, stealthed off into a corner, just Overwatch into the shadows, keeping an eye, making sure nothing, dodgy was going down. Well, really good stealth and a really good perception as well, actually. And Lo went up to the bar, chatting to the barmaid, tavern owner. Pavu, who's a one-armed Goliath. Chat about icebreakers and crews and who we could speak to. Was directed over to a tavern in the back corner of the tavern, to a table in the back corner. The main part of the tavern is like a big U shape. You come into the bottom of the U. So if you're writing the letter capital U, the table, you start in the left and you finish in the top right. The table is in the top right hand corner of the U, and the bar is kind of at the bottom. So they came in there. So Lo came in, chatted to Pavu, and was directed to this table. And says, well, what are they drinking? Oh, they're drinking wine. So he bought a couple of bottles of wine, like a bottle of whiskey as well, and then headed over to the table. Duchess followed suit, and actually rolled really good stealth to like sit down, to sort of blend in with a crowd nearby and kind of half listen in. Rolled really good stealth and really good perception. Lo then sat down, got into a good shot with the crew. And it's the first time as a DM that I've made like a sexual NPC, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that, well, kind of one of those NPCs that just likes to flirt. And Kyron Iceman, the captain of the Whitey Goat, which is the icebreaker, is a massive fucking flirt. So yeah, that was this first time going, let's see how this goes. And I actually managed to break him. I actually managed to break Lowe's PC. Kind of snapped him out of character, which was fun. Yeah, kind of Lowe went over, sat down, passed out the drink, and was chatting away. And says, "Oh, so what can you tell me about, what can you tell me about the, I'm here to ask about the turtle and everything else." And learned a good wee bit. So there's Kyron, Creve. So Kyron's the tiefling captain, Creve, who's a dragonborn master of the goat, and Damien, the human first mate. I kind of chatting to the crew about what was going on, and was kind of directed to Creve. I learned that Creve's brother, Mechan, was actually the master on board the turtle. So obviously Creve and Mechan got talking. This is all kind of, oh, my brother told me this. The dragon turtle's out of port at the moment, but Creve was able to say that, oh yeah, those guys came through a while back, and everything the party had already learned was sort of confirmed. And like, yes, they came through twice. Headed to an outpost. It was that was the Dynasty Outpost number 2, which the party then go, okay, well, we now won't know where they went. So they knew they were there, and the goats did a supply run to there at some point recently, and they found the outpost had been destroyed, like razed to the ground, charred, frozen. Like, what the fuck's going on here? So that outpost has been destroyed, but that's where the Defiant had gone through. And whenever the turtle, sorry, the crew of the goat had like went up, got off, checked the outpost to see if they could find out what had happened or whatever. They found most of the inhabitants were there, fairly badly burnt, all of them dead. They found one body a ways off from the outpost that wasn't burnt and kind of was a bit differently dressed to what you would have expected at a Dynasty outpost. Pause for drink. Yeah, so we found this body that was a ways off. Well, I say ways off. Wasn't in the outpost, was kind of next to it. And it was a dead body, but had died from what they guessed was like a broken neck. And it was a bit weird. And patted into the body to see if there's anything of interest on them. And the only thing that they found was a brooch. Or a brooch / lapel pin. the outside of a kind of a circular in shape. Oof. Circular shape and about the size. I don't know what you would say that. Slightly bigger than a golf ball. In terms of, if you look at a golf ball, if you cut a golf ball into like if you cut a thick slice out of a golf ball, like the thickest slice of a golf ball, probably about that size, slightly bigger. The outside of it was like a fine gold and silver wire, and in the middle was a very, very roughly cut teardrop ruby, which Lowe was like, "Do you recognize that?" Yes, that's the symbol of the Defiant. You immediately recognize that. You've talked about it enough times. You know what that is. Damien, no, yeah, Damien was the one who had that in his person. So Creve and Damien were kind of talking back and forth. And well, where'd you find the body? Oh, he was a ways off, and then well, we didn't know who the hell he was, so we buried the inhabitants in one part, and we buried him separately. And Lowe was asking, "Oh, well, what are you going to do with that brooch as well?" I was going to, next time I'm in a big city, I'm going to sell it. And how much? Well, how much do you think you would sell it for? And he says, 25 gold. And Lowe went, "I'll give you 100 for it." So the guy was like, "There you go." And then asked about passage. Well, what if I was to ask you guys, if you guys, excuse me. I says to them, "Well, what if I was to ask you guys to give us a lift, head to the outpost? I know it's destroyed, but if we wanted to head up that way, where would we go?" And says, "Oh, no, yeah, we can certainly do that." And Lowe also offered 100 gold. I think 100 gold each way. Very, very, very generous offer. And they were like, "Yep, well, that's no worries at all. Well, we'll pencil you in whenever you guys want to go. Just let me know." So that was that. I kind of had a bit more of a chat with them, and that's a very good summary of what he had learnt. And then sort of went back and chatted to Achilles and Duchess and everything else, and had a bit of a chat. And Achilles, whenever he saw the brooch and learned about what had happened, Achilles kind of stormed over to the table and just immediately accosted Damien, who was the one who had the brooch. He says, "Where is this guy? How did you find him? Tell me everything." And Damien was like, "Easy, friend. I've already told your mate what happened. I've already told your mate everything I know. He's up the outpost. He's buried there. He's not fucking going anywhere." And Achilles was like, "Okay, well, how much to go? Like now, tonight?" And the guy was like, Listen, friend. He's dead. He's buried. He's not going anywhere. The Horus Festival in a couple of days. We'll take you after that. Your friend's already paid first. Just simmer down." Okay, he's kind of collecting himself and calmed down a bit. Drew a bit of attention to themselves, but certainly learned a good bit. And Team Docs, cutting to them, Titus, Bjorn, Ariadne. Heading out of the docks, Bjorn was keeping an eye out for groups of revelers, people he could talk to. Didn't really roll great. Saw plenty of groups of people, but not like there wasn't like, "Oh yes, I can go speak to these people. This all will be grand." Unfortunately, didn't quite work out that way. But all well and good. And then kind of made a bit of a beeline for the Audacity. The one crew that they knew they could go and talk to and get good information from. And it just so happens, they got to the Audacity and they saw Timon, Chuck, and Sally, captain, first mate, and the master / bosun, the three big ones, on the deck of the ship, talking to this young human male. So short, longish, browny hair, by the name of Matthew. So, "Well, Matthew, what about you?" Chatting away, and learned that Matthew was a crew member on board the Turtle, former crew member, and he had been on the first run the Defiant had made up to this outpost. In between that one and the second one, he had got into a bar fight with a dice hustler, got himself injured, and couldn't sail because he couldn't work because he was injured. So it lost out on that passage. He was a wee bit miffed about it, but kind of looking for work, which is how he came to be on the Audacity. But he told them about the first run with the Defiant. It says they're a bit of an off bunch, but they paid well above the going rate, so Mechan would have been mad to turn them down. And he said that after the trip, their quarters reeked of incense and rust. which is very weird. And also during the trip, they're kind of chanting, singing, praying at all hours. This wasn't like loud, obnoxious, but it was like just, yeah, that's what they were doing. They're a weird bunch. So then he also said that after the second trip, he went to try and speak to Mehen to get his job back, to go, hey, can I get my post back? And Mehen kind of fobbed him off, which seemed out of character and kind of not himself, a bit confused. Speaking about Mehen, he's a bit, okay, that's a bit odd. That's not what he's like at all. And then, who replaced you? Kind of learned that the person who replaced him was a member of the Brass Bells crew, which is the ship that Jeremiah Doyle lives on and travels about in. So chatting away, and then Matthew says, well, if we were to head north, well, how many icebreakers are there? How do you get north? And Matthew says, well, absolutely no harm to you, Timon, but this ship would not last a crack. This ship is not built for the ice or the wastes. Just this ship wouldn't do it. You would need an icebreaker. There's 4 that operate in the north. There's the wily goat, the dragon turtle, the sea otter, and the narwhal. Turtle's out at the moment. The goat's the only really one that's available at the moment. The otter and the narwhal are kind of getting repaired or already spoken for. But the wily goat, he says, when they've been asked, well, what's the crew of the goat like? What's the ship like? And it's a good ship, very solid ship. And Chiron runs a good crew. He's a bit odd, but the crew's good and the goat's a fine vessel. If you were heading north, you could do worse. So good advice. So learned that. Kind of, oh yes, they've definitely just kind of got a vibe for the passage and everything else that's going on up here. And then at some point, someone asked about maps. I think it was, I can't remember who was Ariadne or who, but someone asked about maps, and it was a case of, well, your best bet's to go and speak to the dockmaster. He would definitely have maps. Don't know if he would give you the maps, but you could certainly go and speak to him and copy them. And up, dead on, cheers, thanks for the help. And then they all reconvened, kind of outside the dockmaster's office. Went in, had a chat with Rhodey, bit about chatting and banter about the previous adventures, and you guys are a big help to the town, yada yada yada. And Ariadne and Bjorn sat down and you copied out, to the best of their ability, the maps. So they have a shipping map, fairly crudely drawn, my amateur skills, but they have a shipping map and then an expeditionary map. So there's a map of, okay, well, this is the route the icebreakers take. And on the shipping map, way off in the east, and the very far northeast corner of the map, is a little red circle and Zephyr, which is where Ariadne is from. So her little commune is on a map and is a known quantity. And also got an expeditionary map, because we know the Defiant, these guys have gone to this outpost, and they got a map of like that outpost in the surrounding area. So now they're both of those. And one other thing that Matthew had mentioned was that whenever the Defiant were dropped off, he was only there for the first one, but when the Defiant were dropped off, he says they were packing relatively light for a group heading off to establish a dig site. He says, I've been in a couple of runs, I've seen many groups come through establishing digs. These guys were traveling light. With the implicate, and then the party went, well, what do you mean? As well, if you're going to set up a dig, you pack a lot more gear than what they were carrying. So they're not going to set up a dig, they're going to take over a dig. Was kind of the best guess of Matthew and the party. So leaving Rhodey, they had their maps kind of in this like leather-bound maps. They're now waterproofed. Heading back to the last hearth. Okay, let's go to bed. Whatever. We'll get up tomorrow and put a day's work in and get ready for the festival. And kind of went past an alleyway, and kind of heard like moans of pain, like painful moaning and groaning. And cast light down the alleyway, and saw 2 figures in a bloody heap. Oh, that's not good. Recognized both of them once there had been a bit of light. One of them was a youngish elven individual who was one of the twins that first welcomed the party to Iceborne when they arrived. I said at the time I couldn't remember the guy's name. I'd probably have said it here, So the twin, I called him Adran, was the male twin. So you recognize him from the last hearth. He works there. He welcomed you to the tavern. And the other figure, who was just, Adran, very roughly beaten up, not good, not having a good evening, but yeah, okay. The other fella was the wine merchant that Bjorn had dealt with previously, and he was not doing good. He had had the shit kicked out of him, and effectively been left for dead. Came to the raid, healing, all the manner of magical healing and stuff. Were able to, fairly help out, Adran pretty well. Kind of got him not quite back to full, but certainly helped him. Got him stabilized and to the point where he was manageable. Like a few days of rest, he's going to be fine. The merchant, well, this is where healing in D&D gets a wee bit, for the sake of the story, there's no point in like saying, oh, the guy's on the brink of death. You pump a heal into him and he's suddenly fine. You're kind of that territory of like, yes, you've healed him, but he's had massive injuries. He's been lying for a while. We'll see. It's kind of that sort of a weird grey area with magical healing in D&D. Like, he's not dead. He's not on death's door anymore, but he's, still not great. So they picked him up, and we're heading for a temple. And also Titus kind of, carrying Adran as well, chatting away to him, seeing what the crack was. You just find out what the hell had happened. At the time, Ariadne also did like a survival check in the alleyway, and Achilles had done like a perception check, kind of scurried up to the rooftops and did a lookout. And Achilles, scurried up and didn't see anybody that was like running away from the scene of a crime. Couldn't see anybody. And Ariadne was able to do a survival check. I kind of, the ground's fairly, it's like slightly frozen, a bit muddy, but was able to see, there has been an initial scuffle, someone else intervenes, and then the scuffle, the fighters, the jumpers turned on this other individual, and then everybody kind of scattered, left the alleyway. And then where the trail joined the main thoroughfare, kind of lost it and couldn't see if they're going into the town or to the docks or wherever. But questions had run, and he said that he left work and been heading to the docks, and had kind of walked past the alleyway and heard the fight, and then had seen a bunch of men, like hoods and masks, beating the shit out of the wine merchant. Trying to intervene and managed to get in and get a couple of good blows, and you got two really good solid hits on two individuals. Both of them kind of cracked across the face before he was just rounded on, pinned to the wall, had the shit kicked out of him. And he says the man who had pinned him to the wall, the one thing he did remember was that the person who pinned him to the wall had these bright green eyes. And I kind of thought, well, I didn't know who they were. I couldn't recognize them. They're all wearing like hoods and masks. I just saw this guy had bright green eyes. I got these guys, in the side of the chin, either side. So, okay, well, we're looking for someone who's got a bruised face. And he said, but I could definitely tell that they were sailors. And he says, well, how can you tell? He says, when the guy had his hands around my throat, I know what a sailor's hands feel like. And when it's wrapped around your throat, there's no mistaking that rough, calloused, rope-burned hands. Especially when it's wrapped around your windpipe. It's pretty distinctive. And then the party were kind of, okay, well, got that information, and we're then heading off to the temple. So that's where we left things. We're going to pick up kind of immediately after that. Lo has already said he can't make the next session. He's off on holidays. So I think I'm going to have, in that session, Lo is probably going to be the part to be heading off to the temple. The guards will see this, the guards are going to see this and go, what the fuck happens? And we'll say Lo goes off with the guards, and the guards go off and they begin their investigation with Lo assisting. That'll take him out of it, keep him busy for a bit. And the party can then carry on their questioning or whatever have you. But yeah, so we'll do that. And also in the next session, we're going to have Harvest Festival. Finally, it's been on the cards for a while, but next session is going to be that. So we've got some games, got some crack, nice little chill party episode. We'll see what happens. Really looking forward to it. And I hope you all hang around for it and enjoy it. But until next time, adventures, have fun and see ya.